Here's the recording of pages 169 to 173. And this is the online textbook, and you can have it read to you just by clicking on these buttons here, or you can listen to me read it to you. All right, the Confucian legacy. Confucius passed away without finding the upright ruler he sought, a wise ruler who followed the way of heaven and set a good example for people to follow. Would his dream of good government ever be realized? Would an upright ruler finally appear? What would the legacy of Confucius be? The Tiger of China. Confucius lived during troubled times, and he died just as China was entering a time of even greater turmoil. This era was known as the period of warring states. Feuding between rival kingdoms would continue for more than 200 years, from about 450 to 220 BC. By the year 221 BC, a powerful warrior prince emerged in the western state of Qin. Ambitious and ruthless, he defeated neighboring warlords and seized control of all the warring Chinese states. The man took the title Qin Shi Huangdi, which means first emperor of the Qin dynasty. The old title king was not grand enough for him. Was the first emperor the upright ruler Confucius had hoped for? As we'll see, he succeeded in uniting China, and he did bring order to the land. But this emperor had very little regard for the teachings of Confucius. According to those teachings, the people owed respect and obedience to their ruler. At the same time, the ruler had to act in a way that made him worthy of respect. A good ruler would not need to punish people to make them obey him. But this was not the way of the man whose harsh rule and mighty feats earned him the title Tiger of China. And here's a painting of him. Strengthening the trunk. The first emperor ruled a land that stretched from the East China Sea to the foothills of the Himalaya, north to the edges of Mongolia, and south to present-day Vietnam. On the map on page 174, find the territory ruled by Qin Shi Huangdi. So right here, Qin dynasty is in purple. So that is his dynasty. Like a tiger on the prowl, the first emperor set about changing the face of China. I must make this great realm into a single empire, he told his advisors. People all over China must think of themselves as one people under a single lord. They must not owe loyalty to separate states. All of the local nobles must be subject to me. The nobles, however, remained powerful, and Qin Shi Huangdi knew that they posed a threat to his supreme rule. So he forced them to leave their states and move to the imperial capital, where he could keep a close watch on them. To take their place, he appointed 36 governors who would report directly to him. The districts they governed were now parts of a unified empire. And what's this? The first emperor, an upright ruler? The first emperor was born Prince Xiang in the state of Qin in 259 BC. His name actually meant upright, but those who served him disagreed. He is merciless, with the heart of a tiger or a wolf, wrote a courtier. He devours his enemies as a silkworm devours a mulberry leaf. Qin Shi Huangdi succeeded in setting up a centralized government for China. That is, a government in which most of the power lay in the hands of the emperor and his court. With officials in the outlying districts reporting to a central government in the capital city, Qin Shi Huangdi had more control over his realm. The Chinese had a saying for what the first emperor had done. They called it strengthening the trunk and weakening the branches. The emperor liked nothing better than touring his realm. As he did so, he discovered other problems. He saw that his subjects used many different units to weigh and measure things. He saw that people in different places used different forms of writing. The emperor realized how confusing this all was. A bag of rice weighed in one village might be given a different weight in another village. Reports written in one part of the empire could not be read in another. Currencies were different too. The coins of the old states were still in use, and they were all different. Cast in bronze, they had various shapes. One was the shape of a spade, another looked like a knife. One even had the shape of a cowrie shell. Money earned in one region could not be spent in another. Qin Shi Huangdi ordered that everyone in the empire should use the same weights, measures, and writing. To motivate people to change from their old habits, he declared that anyone who clung to the old ways would be guilty of treason. He also imposed a unified currency. The new imperial coins were round with a hole in the middle, so they could be strung together and suspended from belts. The emperor even made a standard width for carts. Everybody would now roll along in the same ruts, packing them into hard, smooth tracks. And they would do so on the new roads that the emperor was beginning to build. A great wall and a great tomb. The first emperor was a great builder. He constructed roads and canals all across China. These, he believed, would knit together the distant corners of his realm and bring all under his control. At last, China was starting to look like an empire. But as the first emperor's cold eyes surveyed his domain, he knew that he still faced one large problem, and this one came not from within his empire, but from without. For centuries, nomadic northern invaders had attacked the Chinese. Riding swift horses, these fierce raiders from the area we now call Mongolia thundered into Chinese villages, killing and stealing at will. Okay, from characters to calligraphy. When Qin Shi Huangdi came to power, the Chinese had been writing for more than a millennium. Their system of writing used thousands of characters or written symbols. These characters varied from region to region. Qin Shi Huangdi wanted to unite his empire, so he told his officials to standardize all the characters. This meant that everyone, no matter where they lived, would use the same characters to mean the same things. The Qin dynasty developed a new system of writing that survives in large part to this day. This script had more than 3,000 characters. Later, during the Han Dynasty, the Chinese created a writing system known as calligraphy, which means beautiful writing. They made ink from flowers and plants, dipped pointed brushes into the ink, and painted the delicate characters onto bamboo or silk. Highly skilled calligraphers had to hold their brushes straight up, as their hands and elbows were never supposed to touch the silk or paper. Calligraphers also had to memorize the thousands of characters used in Chinese writing. With each passing year, there were more symbols to remember. One famous Chinese dictionary from AD 100 lists more than 9,000 characters, each representing a different object or idea. Many resembled the object they were communicating. For example, big looked like a stick figure of a big person standing with arms outstretched, like this. The character for water resembled several streams running into one river, okay, like this one. And mountain contained 3 lines rising like mountain peaks. At times, these nomadic peoples threatened to invade all of China. I must make my land safe, the first emperor told his advisors. I have to protect it from these invaders from the north. I will build a strong barrier to keep them out. With his usual energy, the emperor set about building a wall across China. But this wall was to be like no other. Qin Shi Huangdi forced more than 1,000,000 workers to toil day and night on the project. They worked high in the mountains through 7 bitter winters and as many blistering summers. Hunger, exhaustion, and overwork killed many. For this reason, the wall has been called the longest cemetery in the world. And here's a picture of the Great Wall of China. Was a huge stone barrier against nomadic raiders from the north. Only a few sections of Qin Shi Huangdi's wall remain. The section above was rebuilt during a later dynasty. So look at how far it goes up into the mountains. And how long is the Great Wall? It depends on how many of its loops and branches you include. The main part of the wall spans about 2,000 miles. But if you were to walk alongside the entire wall and all its branches, you would hike about 4,500 miles. Aerial photos have revealed buried portions of the wall that would make it even longer than that. The Great Wall is so long, no one is sure exactly how long it is. Generations of Chinese workers labored at building the Great Wall. Eventually, it snaked some 4,500 miles across deserts, mountains, valleys, and hills. In some places, it was 6 horses wide and 5 men high. 40-foot towers rose every few hundred yards, the distance said to be that of 2 arrow shots. This meant that any enemy attacking the wall would be within range of a deadly arrow shot by archers in each tower. For centuries, the wall protected China from invasion. In later centuries, it sometimes fell into ruin and sometimes was rebuilt. It still stands today, the longest man-made structure ever built. And then on page 174, locate the Great Wall of China. Right here, Great Wall of China. All right, and then it also says here, the Great Wall under the Han Empire. Okay, so the Han must have finished building it. We'll read about them next. Let's see. The first emperor's reign over all of China was short, just 11 years. As his tomb shows, his plans for the afterlife were as great as his ambitions on earth. Other great leaders had built monumental tombs. The first emperor did not know about the pyramids raised by the pharaohs of Egypt a millennium earlier. But the Chinese emperor's efforts were similarly grand. His army had served him well in his life. He would take another army to protect him in the afterlife. The many chambers of the emperor's tomb were spread over 22 square miles. Inside several of these chambers, he placed about 7,500 life-sized terracotta statues to guard him in death. Some of these clay soldiers stood at attention. Others knelt at the ready with bows and arrows. Still others rode on horseback. This emperor clearly believed he would be a powerful ruler in the world to come. The soldiers buried at the first emperor's tomb were not discovered until 1974, when two farmers digging a well in a field unearthed part of his silent army. The steadfast soldiers had been on guard for their long dead emperor for more than 2,000 years. Like many rulers in ancient times, Qin Shi Huangdi possessed a colossal ego. He spared no trouble glorifying himself, but he also displayed an impressive ability to organize huge numbers of workers for massive projects. Qin Shi Huangdi set an example that other Chinese emperors would follow for centuries to come. Throughout China's history, powerful rulers would not hesitate to use armies of workers to tackle enormous public projects, from constructing walls and laying roads to digging canals and building dams. And we will stop there. That finishes pages 169 to 173.